I'm a COVID-19 survivor. No matter I belong to the Green Building Council Indonesia, I still can get infected. Last June 20th, 2021, I got positive infected. But at June 30th, 2021, I got healed or negative. Why I can get healed so fast? The reason is that this is the home that I live, the residence that I live. The wall to ratio in the windows in here is quite huge. That cause the wind flow, create the cross ventilation in here is very fast. So this one, meaning the cross ventilation in here can be accountability in a house, and the architect is doing the good job.
Cool global temperatures, regular climate conditions, comfortable life, abundant greenery, and fresh air is surely an ideal for all human beings. Because God knows when we will part with this world. But alas the beauty if we can enjoy all that while we still live in this world. And surely, by the time we pass, we do not burden our future generations with unnecessary responsibilities. They need not spend their blood, sweat, and tears to transform the world that they live in to be comfortable. They would only need to maintain the nature that we have prepared for them. Flashback to our environmental conditions a decade or two ago, we have seen many things go and do not return, like the dense fog that appear in high altitudes, showing the world how cold the place is. Even though we can still find places like it, it was never as frequent as it was back then. At daytime, people would not need umbrellas to protect their skin from the harmful rays of the sun. But now, if we would not use an umbrella, we would damage our skin because of how intense the heat of the sun is today. Added with COVID-19, which forced people to stay at home even though they are still in work or in education. There are more extreme examples of what happened in our environment today that shows that it is increasingly more uncomfortable to live in. How could we ever hope to enjoy this with our descendants 100, 1,000, or even 1,000 years in the future? Let us find a way to return nature to the way it was supposed to be starting from now. How? We introduce the concept of green building. It is one of the many ways to contribute largely to the conservation of nature that we hope for. Will we able to return nature to the way it was like 2 decades ago? Many countries have concentrated around the management of environment and nature. Japan, Brazil, China, European and American countries, and many more. We, as the citizens of Indonesia, cannot let ourselves to be left behind, especially when we are dubbed as the lungs of the world. If our lungs were to be unhealthy, or dysfunctional, we would be very sick or even die. In Yogyakarta, many buildings have adopted the concepts of passive design with the primary goal to achieve comfort and energy efficiency and savings. We can find examples of this in passive design is one of many ways to achieve the balance of nature. We use them in existing buildings by renovation, adjusting to the local climate and weather, or designing a new building to adopt passive design technology before it is built.
Passive design is designed to create energy efficiency compared to regular design. Architects do this besides energy efficiency to reduce carbon emission until zero consumption of fossil fuel. They also put attention to the building orientation, local climate, and wind direction.
The question that is frequently asked is whether passive design is relevant. The short answer is no. If we take into account the daily activities that we do, like working or going to school. But if we want to stay still for a while and reflect about our life, passive design becomes very relevant. The human lifespan is minuscule compared to the age of Earth and the universe. Living 70 to 80 years has already been considered a blessing of long life. But with the 80 years that we have we ever thought about how to make our lives more comfortable and healthier? So that we could enjoy the remaining time that we have well spent, comfortable and healthy. Does it feel like the temperature around the house have been hotter lately? Do we feel that the sun's rays have been a lot more stinging in the past few years? Does it feel like the air conditioning that we have does not feel as cool anymore to the point of considering upgrading or purchasing an additional unit to the point where the electricity bills balloon every month? One of the many things to consider is that electricity bill per kilowatt hour are only getting more expensive by the year. But the supply of electricity energy does not increase proportionately with the energy demand.
The goal of passive design is thermal comfort, meaning people who live inside houses or buildings should be comfortable. Therefore, if the local climate is not advantageous, for example, local average temperature of 32 degrees and humidity above 80%, architects opt to use AC to provide comfortable environment. In addition, they have to provide a solution in active design to create higher energy efficiency by choosing lower energy AC with environment-friendly refrigerant and a small coefficient of performance. We can use the art of war in our design strategy. Our building shapes can be seen as ourselves, and our surroundings are our enemies. They include climate and wind. In Indonesia, especially in Yogyakarta, west-west sun-facing is our enemy, and southward, away from direct sunlight, is our friend. Using this strategy, we can organize the rooms and the building shapes and shade to optimize our passive design.
Population growth and global temperature both increase and become the primary cause of global warming. Because of this, let us change our lifestyle so that we could live more comfortably, healthier, and our monthly spending decrease slowly. Buildings that are not built yet are surely more flexible design-wise, but existing buildings must be acted upon as well. There are many ways to achieve these things, adjusted accordingly to their geographical location. First thing to consider is the building orientation. It would be very ideal if the building facade would face the north or the south to minimize the exposure of sunlight and therefore creating a cooler and comfortable interior atmosphere. Building canopies and walls can also be manipulated to stagnate the heat transfer into the building. The usage of Limasan-style roof is highly recommended compared to a flat concrete roof, and even more so if supported by the appropriate building orientation. All these contribute to lower indoor temperatures. Building material also contribute to indoor temperatures and comfort if selected correctly. Materials such as bamboo or other wood would be better than if we were to use concrete, though proper maintenance would be required. Window placement is also crucial in air circulation within the room that would later also contribute to lower indoor temperatures. We are still fighting the coronavirus up to this day, and far in the future, we do not know what kind of pandemic will hit us next. But if we were better prepared for it, we should be more ready to face whatever sickness should it emerge in the near future. How wonderful it would be to enjoy the house that is comfortable and healthy in our feeble lifespan. Besides, we also need to think about the future of our descendants so that they too would be able to enjoy healthy environments and comfortable temperatures. At least, lest we do not disrespect the environment that we live in.
In the tropical area, a well-implemented passive design strategy will ensure users in achieving thermal, visual, and acoustical comfort without the auxiliary of active cooling. Applying passive design means reducing negative impacts on the environment, both for air, energy availability, land, and water. Implementing passive design means also utilizing natural lighting and ventilation. And providing openings for natural lighting and ventilation means also providing the introduction of outside air for the benefit of healthy building. Implementing passive design provides benefits in the form of minimizing building operational costs. Related to passive design, the basic building design principles covers the strategies on site development, building layouts, envelope composition, and the development of building interiors. This video will discuss the passive design strategies in the building of Universitas Ciputra. Universitas Ciputra, located in the middle of residential and commercial area in Surabaya, East Java Province, Indonesia. Building of Universitas Ciputra is designed by a famous Indonesian architect, Bapak Yori Antar. The first building was built in 2005, and the second building, the UC Tower, was built in 2020. By using this building as the case study, we can learn how passive design strategies are implemented, how the building responds to the climate to achieve users' comfort. Site development here includes the arrangements of the site and the building mass, as well as the ground cover, landscape, and building orientation. To reduce energy use in air conditioning, site arrangement should support the creation of good airflow between the building masses. The good airflow here is a potential for the outdoor air introduction in each of the buildings. To reduce energy use in active cooling, efforts must be made to minimize the heat gain. Heat transfer from an area of high temperature to an area of low temperature. So, to minimize heat transfer from the outdoor to the indoor buildings, the outside air temperature must be kept low. Orientation refers to the way you place your building on its side to take advantage of climatic features such as sun and cooling breezes. Good orientation reduces the need for auxiliary heating and cooling and improve solar access to panels for solar photovoltaic and hot water. One of the passive design goals is to create thermal and visual comfort without increasing the energy load for cooling and lighting. A streamlined building layout is preferable. With a streamlined layout, there is a potential for optimal cross ventilation. The layout of the space in the building should be classified, means that zoning made based on the need for natural ventilation and daylighting. Building envelope also plays an important role in the implementation of passive design. Material selection, color composition, type of the opening, the presence of shading device, and the type of shading will affect efforts to minimize heat gain. For buildings which typically used at night, porous material in the building envelope is preferable because it accelerates the release of heat when the ambient temperature is already drops. Another tool that can be used to minimize heat gain in a passive design strategy is the shading device. As basic options, there are 3 types of shading device. There are horizontal shading device, vertical shading device, and the accurate model. Efforts towards net zero healthy buildings can also be assisted by passive design strategies related to the development of the building interior. To reduce the use of artificial lighting and optimize daylighting, we can choose transparent materials as the partitions between rooms so that the spaces located in the center of the building can borrow the daylight from the spaces on the perimeter.
Universitas Ciputra is located in Surabaya. The climatic data shows that the wind direction mostly comes from the west and the east side. Lower UC building is placed in the west side, and the taller building, the UC tower, is placed at the east side. This kind of site development creates good flow for air circulation. The lower building can utilize the airflow from the west side without getting an obstruction from the taller building. Simple strategies such as the use of grass as ground cover and vegetation as shading can help to maintain lower outside air temperature. Arrangement of vegetation and landscape can also be used as wind direction and noise control. As you can see in UC building, the arrangement of vegetation in front of UC Plaza can help to deflect the wind direction. Other issues related to net zero healthy building is the acoustical comfort, which is related to noise control. Passive strategy through site development can be used also to achieve this goal. At the front part of UC building, which is facing to the main road, ground is elevated in order to be a noise buffer. The main orientation of UC building is extending to the west side and the east side. This means that the long side is on the north and south, while the short side is on the west and east. Such orientation will help to minimize the heat gain due to western and eastern solar radiation. For lighting in classroom and office, for example, the illuminance level required is around 300 to 500 lux, while the corridor area may be only 50 to 100 lux. At UC building, classrooms and office areas with higher requirements for natural ventilation and natural lighting are placed on the perimeter of the building. This arrangement makes an optimal use of natural light penetration and the outdoor air introduction through the openings in the building envelope. Areas that need lower illuminance levels, such as corridors and communal spaces, are placed in the center of the building. For buildings such as Universitas Ciputra, which is typically used during the day, Materials with high thermal mass will be preferable. Its ability to retain heat will help the rooms inside to achieve thermal comfort conditions during the day. Bright colors with high reflectance levels will help to reflect direct radiation from the sun, as well as contribute to minimize heat gain also. In the tropical area, horizontal shading device will be effective in minimizing direct radiation from the north and the south. Meanwhile, for low sun angles in the morning and evening, vertical shading device is preferable. As we can see, UC apply the vertical shading device to give shading on the openings placed on the east and west facade. To minimize the heat gain, there is a secondary skin placed on UC facade. The secondary skin and the space between the secondary skin and the building act as a buffer of direct radiation. The type of opening in the building envelope determines whether there is a potential of outdoor air introduction into the building. A large window-to-wall ratio will be useless if the openings implemented are not operable openings. Operable window applied at UC. In this case, it is very beneficial because it allows user to have control in achieving thermal comfort. They can open or close the window anytime to adjust to their thermal comfort zone. In the new normal conditions, operable windows also provide other advantages because they allow air circulation, which is mandatory needed to create a healthy building. UC building uses bright colors as its interior finishing. This strategy applied to increase the reflectance and distribution of natural light. The indoor space with the open plan concept at UC is also very beneficial because it creates a more even distribution of air and daylight.
The decision is now in our hands. Do we desire better life? Do we desire better health? Do we want our children and grandchildren to be able to enjoy the same comfort and health that we have eons in the future? Passive designs has become one of the solutions for prospective and existing buildings that can achieve all that we need. Surely, all this must also factor the geographical location provided. Building orientation, room layout design, shadow placement design, building materials, window placement, etc. will be the main factors that must be considered when building. It is not too late for existing buildings either to change and adjust to the concept of passive design. If this human skin could be rejuvenated, could the skin of the building also be rejuvenated with the environmentally friendly material? Let us begin with affordable materials. If we began to sense the benefits, we would concentrate on doing more with our buildings. The main point of net zero building is to use passive design so energy-efficient buildings can be built. As you can see the flowchart of Greenship Net Zero Healthy below, beyond green, we have to put health in our priority. Other than passive design, we could also utilize net zero water and the usage of renewable energy. All this will be studied in the next episode. Let us step forward with simple steps. And if these simple steps is done with tenacity and many people, then it would surely have a great effect on the world.